when you grow old and are left alone. Do these things. I used to think that being alone meant being free, that once the kids had grown, the house quieted, and work no longer filled my days, I would finally have time for myself. I imagined long mornings with coffee and peace, afternoons spent reading, and evenings lost in my own thoughts. And for a while, it felt just like that. But then one day, the silence began to shift. It wasn't restful anymore. It was heavy, and the stillness that once felt like a gift began to feel like a weight I didn't know how to carry. You see, there's a paradox to aging alone. You've earned the right to rest, but you might find yourself restless. You're finally free from everyone's demands, but now you long to feel needed again. The world slows down, but the ache of being unseen begins to grow. This video isn't just about getting older. It's not about statistics or advice you've heard 1,000 times. It's about what it feels like to age, alone. And what you can actually do, not just to cope, but to reclaim meaning, connection, and a deep sense of peace. If you've ever looked around your quiet home and wondered, is this really it? This video is for you. If this resonates with you, please comment 1. If not, feel free to comment 0. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this message touches your heart, consider subscribing and hitting the bell so we don't lose each other in the noise of the world. Let's begin. Loneliness isn't just the absence of people, it's the absence of being seen. It's not that no one visits, it's that no one truly asks how I'm doing. I remember a day when my daughter Emily came to drop off some groceries. She was in a hurry, juggling phone calls, errands, and her children's schoolwork. She hugged me quickly and said, "Dad, I have to rush, but I'll call you later." Then she left. The door closed, and I stood in the quiet hallway with a bag of apples and a hollow ache in my chest. It wasn't that I needed more apples. What I needed was to be seen. Loneliness in old age doesn't always show up as an empty room. Sometimes it's a full house where no one really looks you in the eye. It's a conversation where people ask about your medications, but not your memories. It's when they speak at you, not with you. We live in a world that often forgets that elders carry entire universes inside them. Memories, stories, dreams, and heartaches. But when no one stops to truly listen, we start to disappear in plain sight. That's the quiet pain of aging alone. Not just the lack of visits, but the loss of recognition. The sense that your presence has become background noise in the lives of others. You become grandma or dad in the logistical sense, but not as a person with thoughts, fears, and desires that still matter. So what can you do? You start by acknowledging this feeling, by saying to yourself, yes, I feel invisible, but I am still here. And then you reclaim small spaces of expression, a letter, a diary entry, a conversation with someone who really sees you. Sometimes we begin to heal not when the world changes, but when we decide to stop fading with it. And once we name the loneliness, we can begin to face it. And from there, rebuild. Routine can numb you or save you. I didn't change my life. I just added a walk. And suddenly, the days felt different. When I first retired, my days were wide open. I could sleep in, eat when I wanted, stay up late, no alarm clocks, no deadlines. It felt like freedom until it didn't. Soon, the hours began to blur. Morning became afternoon. Afternoon slipped into night, and I found myself wondering, what did I even do today? When you live alone, time has a way of stretching out not like a comforting blanket, but like an empty hallway. Each day looks like the last. You wake up, sit in the same chair, eat the same breakfast, stare at the same wall, and before you know it, a week has passed, and nothing inside you has changed. That's when routine becomes dangerous. Not because it's boring, but because it quietly makes you disappear. But here's the thing, routine can also become a life raft. It depends on whether you choose it or whether it chooses you. One morning, I decided to take a short walk, just around the block. My knees ached, and I moved slowly. But something about feeling the sun, Smelling the morning air and seeing neighbors' gardens made me feel human again. The next day, I walked again. A little farther, I started greeting strangers. I noticed birds. I took a different route. It didn't fix everything, but suddenly, my days had a shape, a rhythm, and within that rhythm, my spirit began to stir. If you're feeling stuck, like the days are heavy and dull, try changing just one thing. Set a morning walk. Stretch for 10 minutes after breakfast. Call someone every Tuesday. Not because you have to, but because you get to. A meaningful life doesn't need big events. Sometimes it just needs a rhythm that you build with intention. And once your day feels anchored, the heart slowly follows. Your home is talking to you. What is it saying? The photos used to make me smile. Now they just make me ache. I didn't notice it at first. It happened slowly, like most things do as we age. The couch became more than a place to sit. It became a place to stay. The dining table, once full of laughter and noise, became a place where mail piled up. The bedroom, once warm and shared, became silent. My home, once a place of comfort, had started to feel like a museum of memories rooms filled with echoes, photos that stared back, and hallways heavy with silence. One afternoon, I caught myself staring at a picture of Sarah and me, taken years ago on a trip to the coast. We were smiling wide, wind in our hair, eyes full of hope. And as I stared at it, something inside me cracked, not from sadness exactly, but from a strange longing I didn't know what to do with. That's when I realized my house had begun to hold more grief than life. But that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Our homes reflect our internal world, and just as we need renewal inside, our space sometimes needs a breath of fresh energy too. You don't have to change everything, you just have to choose one corner to bring back to life. I started with a windowsill. I cleared off the dust, placed a small plant, and added a candle. Suddenly, that one corner felt like hope. Like I was allowed to still enjoy beauty. Slowly, I rearranged a shelf, added music in the mornings, and opened windows more often. I wasn't redecorating, I was reclaiming. If your house feels too quiet, too full of the past, maybe it's time to invite something small and new inside. Not to erase what was, but to remind yourself that your story is still unfolding. And from the spaces around us, we begin to change the space within. Grief doesn't end, but it changes form. I still talk to her, just not out loud anymore. Grief is a strange thing. It doesn't follow a schedule. It doesn't ask your permission. And it certainly doesn't leave when you think it should. It lingers quietly, like the scent of someone who once lived in your home. You can't see it, but it's there, in the folds of every morning, in the stillness of every night. When I lost Sarah, people told me, time heals all wounds. But what they don't say is this: some wounds don't close, they just stop bleeding as loudly. At first, I avoided everything. Her clothes, her books, even her chair. I didn't want to feel the pain. I thought if I stayed busy enough, I could outrun the sadness. But you can't outrun grief. You can only learn to walk beside it. One morning, months after she passed, I sat in her chair. For no reason, really. I just needed to. I held her old shawl in my hands and closed my eyes. For the first time, I didn't fight the tears, and something shifted. Not a big transformation, but a quiet softening. Grief, I realized, doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to remind you that you once loved deeply, and that love still lives, just in a different way now. Over time, I began to include Sarah in my days again. I spoke to her while watering the plants. I told her about the grandkids when I looked at photos, not because I expected answers, but because it felt right. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means giving yourself permission to love the memory without being crushed by it. And when we stop fighting grief, we begin to grow alongside it. You're not a burden. You're a legacy. They say they're too busy, but I spent my whole life making time for them. It's a common ache I hear from many older friends. My children love me, but they're always in a hurry. My calls go to voicemail. They say they'll come next week, and next week never comes. There's a quiet pain in feeling left behind, not out of malice, but out of modern life's endless rush. And slowly, the thought begins to whisper, maybe I'm just a burden now. But let me tell you something I've had to learn the hard way. You are not a burden. You are a legacy. You are the reason your children get to live with confidence. You are the quiet foundation beneath every choice they now make. You've given your best years, your energy, your sacrifices. That's not weight that's worth it. That's love in its purest form. The truth is, younger generations often don't realize how anchoring your presence is. They're busy building their lives, and in their busyness, they forget that you are not asking for much, just to be remembered, included, seen. You are not someone they have to care for. You are someone whose wisdom, laughter, and stories enrich their lives. So don't shrink. Write them letters. Leave behind stories. Share that recipe no one ever learned. Tell them about your first heartbreak, your first success, your silent victories. Because you are more than a parent. You are a living archive of love, and maybe it's time to stop apologizing and start passing on the quiet power of your legacy. Friendship at this age is a quiet miracle. We didn't talk much, but he knew when I needed silence more than words. You'd think that by the time we reach our 60s, 70s, or 80s, we've made all the friends we'll ever have. But then, something surprising happens. We found someone at the park, in a waiting room, over a slow game of chess at the community center. Not someone to fix our loneliness, but someone to sit in it with us, and that makes all the difference. I met Thomas on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. We sat on separate benches under the same shelter at the park, both of us quietly watching the drizzle. I don't remember what started the conversation, maybe a comment about the weather, maybe just a nod, but somehow we talked for an hour, not about anything earth-shattering, just life, his wife, my wife, his garden, my grandkids, his favorite book, my old record collection. It was easy, and somehow healing. When you're older, you don't need people to impress you. You just need someone who gets it. Someone who understands what it means to lose and keep living. Someone who doesn't flinch when you mention your spouse who passed or the nights that feel too long. Friendship in later years doesn't come with expectations. It comes with presence. And presence, my friend, is the rarest gift of all. So if you've been feeling alone, I encourage you go sit somewhere new. Go walk somewhere quiet. Look up and notice someone else who might also be hoping for a little connection. It doesn't have to be deep, not right away. Just kind. Because in this season of life, a shared cup of tea can feel like a miracle. And love, it turns out, doesn't always arrive as romance. Sometimes it comes simply as understanding. You don't move on, you move differently. Life didn't return to what it was, but it found a new shape I could live with. When people say, you have to move on, I gently shake my head, because the truth is, we never really move on, not from deep love, not from deep loss. What we do is learn to move differently. In the beginning, after Sarah passed, I tried to act normal. I smiled when people visited. I answered. I'm fine even when I wasn't. I kept busy, thinking if I didn't stop moving, the pain wouldn't catch up. But one afternoon, I sat down and it did. Grief doesn't vanish when ignored. It waits, patiently, until you're quiet enough to feel it. That day, I realized something essential. I didn't need to get over Sarah. I needed to make space for her absence, to let it live in me without swallowing me. So I stopped pretending. I let the tears come when they wanted. I stopped apologizing for feeling broken. I began building a life, not despite my grief, but with it. I made time for the things that gave me peace: walks, writing, volunteering, planting herbs on the windowsill. I didn't recover from the loss. But I created a rhythm that allowed me to breathe again, and little by little, I discovered something precious. You can carry sorrow and still make room for joy. You can miss someone every single day and still live fully, deeply, beautifully. So if you're waiting to move on before living again, don't. Instead, move differently, move gently, move slowly, but keep moving toward peace, toward yourself. And in that movement, you just might find you're no longer surviving, you're living again. Peace comes when you stop waiting for what's lost. I stopped waiting for the knock at the door and started writing letters to myself instead. For the longest time, I left the porch light on at night, just in case one of the kids stopped by, just in case an old friend remembered, just in case. That just in case kept me stuck frozen in a season that had already passed. We don't talk about it much, but many of us wait for things that may never return. A voice on the phone, an apology never spoken, a visit that keeps getting postponed. And in that waiting, we slowly place our happiness in someone else's hands. But peace, true peace, doesn't come from others coming back. It comes from you coming back to yourself. I remember the moment it changed for me. One morning, I poured 2 cups of tea. I used to do that out of habit, but that day, I paused. I sat at the table and drank them both, one slowly, one gratefully. It wasn't sad. It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful because I wasn't waiting anymore. I was living again. I started writing letters to myself in the mornings, just a sentence or two. Today I felt strong. Today I remembered her laugh. Today I saw a squirrel on the fence. They weren't grand declarations. They were little proof that I was still here, still noticing, still living, still present. So if you've been waiting for the call, the knock, the moment someone comes back, maybe this is the season to stop waiting. Not out of bitterness, but out of love for your own life. Because when you stop waiting, peace finally has room to walk in. Redefining purpose, you're still needed. I used to ask, who needs me now? And then I realized, I do. After retirement, after the kids have grown, after the funeral flowers have faded, there often comes a question that lands heavy on the heart. What am I here for now? When our roles shift from parent to empty nester, from employee to retiree, from spouse to widow, it's easy to feel like life has slowly moved on and left us behind. We go from being needed every hour to barely being noticed. But here's the truth: you are still needed, just in different ways. And one of the people who needs you the most is you. You need your own kindness, your own encouragement, your own care. And yes, others need you too, though they may not say it as often. Your granddaughter may not know how to say it, but the stories you tell her are shaping her values. Your neighbor might not admit it, but seeing you take a walk each day gives him courage to start moving again. The friend you call once a week, that call might be the one thing keeping her going. Purpose in this chapter of life is no longer about achievement or performance. It's about presence. Your very being, your eyes, your words, your resilience can be a quiet light for someone else. So ask yourself this: what small act can I do today that honors my purpose? It might be baking for someone, sending a card, watering your plants, praying for a stranger, or simply looking in the mirror and saying, you still matter. Because sometimes the greatest contribution we make is simply to keep showing up with love, faith, and inner life. A new kind of relationship. My conversations with God became more real. Once the world got quiet, there's something sacred that happens when the noise of the outside world fades, when the children stop calling as often, when the social invitations dry up, when the house feels more like a sanctuary than a gathering place. What's left, surprisingly, is not just silence, but space. Space to think, space to feel, space to reach beyond what we can see. For many people, aging alone becomes a kind of return, not just to memories, but to faith. to the quiet companionship of something larger than ourselves. You don't have to be religious to feel this shift. Some find it in prayer, some morning walks, some are lighting a candle, some simply closed their eyes and whispered, "Thank you, or I'm still here." As life narrows on the outside, the interior world becomes richer if you let it. I started talking to God again, not like I did in church, but like I would with an old friend. Sometimes in words, sometimes in silence, sometimes just in the way I sat near the window and listened. And slowly, I realized I wasn't as alone as I thought. There was something or someone that had been there all along, just waiting for me to sit still long enough to notice. This spiritual connection, whatever it means for you, doesn't erase the pain, but it gives the pain a place to rest, a place to breathe, a place to transform. And sometimes the most powerful relationship we have is the one we build in the quietest moments. Caring for the body. A love letter to yourself. For years, I put everyone else first. Now, taking care of myself feels like an act of quiet devotion. There's something we don't talk about enough, how easily we abandon ourselves as we grow older. We remind others to eat well, to take their medicine, to get some rest. But when it comes to our own bodies, we postpone. We forget. We say, "What's the point anymore?" Here's the truth no one tells you. Your body still listens. It still longs for care, for attention, for tenderness. You don't have to train for a marathon. You don't have to diet obsessively or follow fads, but you can begin to treat your body not like a burden, but like a friend, a loyal companion that's carried you through decades. Start small. Drink more water. Stretch in the morning. Take slow. Short walks and notice how your legs still hold you. Eat something colorful not because it's trendy, but because your body deserves joy. Make your doctor appointments. Ask questions. Know your numbers not out of fear, but out of respect for the time you still have. Your health doesn't have to be perfect. But your relationship with your body can still be kind. Because every gentle thing you do, every step, every breath, every caring touch becomes a message, I'm still worthy of this care. And sometimes, the first step to feeling alive again is simply remembering that your body wants you to stay. The art of letting go with grace, not guilt. I let go of the guilt. I let go of what could have been. I kept only what brings peace. If you live long enough, you'll carry more than just memories. You'll carry regrets. What you said, what you didn't say, what you did, what you never had the chance to do. You'll carry moments that keep replaying in your mind conversations that ended too quickly, or not quickly enough. You'll remember times you hurt someone or didn't stand up for yourself, and you'll whisper to yourself at night, if only I could go back. But here's something age eventually teaches us if we're willing to listen. Peace doesn't come from rewriting the past. It comes from releasing it. Letting go is not giving up. It's not pretending things didn't happen. It's simply choosing to stop holding your breath and start living again. Letting go is saying I forgive myself. I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. I may not have been perfect, but I was present. I was real. I was human. It's refusing to carry the weight of other people's silence or their absence. It's no longer apologizing for how long it took you to heal. And most of all, it's letting yourself be new. Even now, you're allowed to begin again, to feel light again, to hold memories without letting them hurt you. Because when you loosen your grip on the past, your hands are finally free to hold peace, making new memories, even now. I thought my best years were behind me, but I just had the sweetest birthday of my life. There's a quiet belief many of us hold as we grow older. The best is behind me. We say it when we see old photos. We feel it when we look in the mirror. We think it when people no longer ask us what we're up to. But here's the truth that aging slowly reveals. The best moments don't stop, they just change shape. They become simpler, softer, more quiet, and more meaningful. A few months ago, I spent my birthday alone for the first time in decades. No party, no cake, just me, a hot cup of tea, and a small radio playing an old Sinatra tune. At first, I felt forgotten, but then something shifted. I looked out the window, saw the sun falling gently through the trees, and thought, this moment right here, it's mine. And it's enough. Later that evening, my neighbor's granddaughter brought over a tiny cupcake. No candles. Just a shy smile and a sticky note that said, "Happy birthday, Mr. T." I cried harder than I had in years. Not because I was sad, but because life even now still finds ways to surprise us. You're not done making memories. Not even close. You can still try a new recipe. Take a photo with a stranger. Learn a song. Watch the sunrise. Write a letter. Forgive someone. Laugh till your stomach hurts. Even fall in love again, if not with someone, then with life itself, because the clock hasn't stopped, and there are still memories waiting to be born, preparing for the end without fear. I started writing my goodbye not because I was dying, but because I finally learned how to live. There's a silence that surrounds the topic of death, even among friends, even in families. It's as if speaking about it might invite it in sooner. But the truth, talking about death doesn't bring it closer. It brings us closer to life. When I finally sat down to write my end-of-life wishes, what music to play, where I wanted my ashes scattered, who I wanted to forgive, I thought I'd feel afraid. But what I felt was relief, peace, and, strangely, joy. Because when you face the end, you stop wasting time. You stop pleasing everyone. You stop collecting things you don't need. You begin to ask better questions. What do I want to feel before I go? Who do I need to call? What can I leave behind, not in a will, but in a heart? Preparing for death isn't about giving up. It's about giving meaning to the time that remains. Write your story. Tell your family what matters. Laugh at your own funeral plans. Fold a letter and seal it with love. You're not being morbid. You're being wise, and this wisdom can be the greatest gift you leave behind. Because when you prepare for the end, you start showing up for the life you still have. The gift of solitude, becoming your own companion. I used to dread being alone. Now, I take myself on walks and whisper, "It's good to be with you." Loneliness hurts, we all know that. But solitude can be something entirely different. It can be a place of rest, a place of rediscovery, a place of quiet beauty. The difference lies in one thing: relationship, not with others, but with yourself. You've spent your life showing up for other people. You held their hands, listened to their stories, cooked, cleaned, worked, worried for everyone else. But how often have you truly sat down with yourself with full attention and care? This chapter of life is an invitation, not to fill the silence, but to befriend it, to light a candle for yourself, to sit at the table and not rush, to walk without headphones and notice the birds. I started treating myself the way I used to treat guests. I'd set out a plate nicely, pour tea in a real cup, not just a mug. I'd say out loud, "You're welcome here. I'm glad you came." It felt strange at first, but slowly, it began to heal something. Because here's the quiet truth. You are the only person who has walked with you through every moment of your life. You've seen your worst days. You've stood up after heartbreak. You've kept breathing when it felt impossible. You are not just someone to be endured. You are someone to be cherished. And maybe the great gift of this season is finally learning how to be good company for yourself. And now, dear friend, we stand here at the edge of this video, but in the heart of something much greater: your life. Not the life that was, not the life that might have been, but the one that still breathes within you, right here, right now. You have walked through many chapters, some filled with love, others with loss, some bursting with noise, others wrapped in silence. But through it all, you kept going. You woke up on days when your heart was heavy. You made meals, paid bills, watered the plants. You stayed even when no one was watching. That, my friend, is strength. That is resilient. That is a quiet kind of heroism the world too often forgets to applaud. It's time we honor that, not with loud fanfare, but with deep recognition. You have lived, you have survived, and you still have the capacity to thrive no matter who's around or who isn't. Now, I invite you to pause and breathe. Take a moment to really feel the truth of where you are. You may live alone. You may eat dinner in silence. You may go days without touching another hand. And yet, you are not empty. You are not useless. You are not done. There are still sunrises waiting for you. There are still books that will make you laugh out loud. There are still flavors you haven't tasted, songs you haven't heard, people you haven't met. And most importantly, there are still parts of yourself you haven't discovered. Maybe, just maybe, being left alone wasn't a curse, but a call to come home, not to a place, not to a person, but to you. This season of life is not your leftover years. It is your legacy, the ones where you begin to shape the wisdom others will remember, the kindness that will ripple, the stories that will outlive you. So let me ask you from one soul to another, what part of this journey spoke to your heart the most? What truth made you stop and feel something? I would be so honored if you'd share in the comments. This is not just my channel. It's a space for all of us who are still becoming. And sometimes, your words may be the exact ones someone else needs to keep going. If this video offers comfort or clarity, please subscribe and click the bell. It helps bring this message to more people who may be feeling what you're feeling. And if someone in your life needs this, share it. Let it be your small act of kindness today. Before we say goodbye, let me remind you of this. The chair you sit in may feel quiet now. The hallway may echo a little too much. But your life is still echoing with meaning. You matter. Your breath matters. Your morning coffee matters. Your prayers, your thoughts, your stillness, they matter. Not because someone else says so, but because you are still here, and the world, whether it knows it or not, is better because you are. In our next video, we'll talk about how to fall in love with life again after great loss through small rituals, quiet joys, and finding meaning in unexpected places. Until then, be gentle with yourself. Wrap your arms figuratively or literally around your own shoulders and say, "Thank you for staying. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being me." You are not alone. You are deeply loved, and your story is not over.